But let's move on to the next game. And Andrea, we're going to go to Stamford Bridge. It looked like it was going to be a hat trick of funny results for me, but thankfully for you, Chelsea did come back and make it 2-2. An unbelievable goal from Jadon Sancho. Like, what a finish that was. Absolutely fished Chelsea out of trouble there. But I really wanted to talk about the atmosphere around Stamford Bridge, to be honest. All the videos since, there have been a lot of booing, a lot of discontent, like people really not happy with Maresca and where the season is going for Chelsea, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of turmoil in the stands, and I think what kind of made it worse was Maresca alluding to it in his conference. He was saying that um, going on to say how the fans doing like that aren't going to help the team win, which I thought is a bit naive to say when they're professionals. They don't need the fans to make any noise to win games. So it was almost putting the blame on the fans why they were 2-0 down, and I think that's where your kind of dignity's questioned there, because it's like you're obviously neglecting that you're managing the team and putting these performances out. And this isn't the first game that they've been this poor. So again, I think there's a lot of tension, and I think Maresca, I guess he's the type of manager that's not going to take anything from anyone, and I think that's a good thing, but it can also backfire, especially if you're doing this towards the fans. So I think this could increase pressure, especially when you had a chance to go back into the Champions League places and then you squander it. And I think on top of that, and I was just having a look actually, Chelsea's remaining fixtures, they've got um, so after Fulham away, it's Newcastle away, Man U home, and then Nottingham Forest away. Everton home, Forest away. So again, it's like that was a game where you needed those points, because now it's like you could seriously miss out on Champions League. And again, winning the Conference League is not a guarantee, although it should be likely. Europa League at this stage doesn't feel enough. And again, it's the money issue and the players they've got. They should be in Champions League. And I think it just goes down to Rescue, because they've been in position to do it. But again, so, just feels very disorganized as well. I think defensively, even when they go forward, I feel like they lack ideas at times. But ultimately, it's the same frailty. Sanchez in goal, poor. I think there's even big question marks on players like Colwill, who was meant to be the main guy, who hasn't been performing either. So a lot of question marks on a lot of players, and I think it does stem from the manager as well.
And I know I'm going to stick with you, Andrea, but I know he got an assist in this game, but even a player like Palmer being so quiet recently, he's completely dropped off. And all the talk I see, I know it's Chelsea and we kind of laugh, but all the talk I see is oh, we need a new striker in the summer. We need to replace this guy in the summer. We need to replace that guy in the summer. But Maresca needs to be getting the best out of these players. And it still feels to me like he's not really settled on a team. I know there's been injury issues as well, but we're this far in the season. I still couldn't really tell you who's going to start on what wing for Chelsea, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you see that from the defence as well. I think the centre backs have changed numerously as well. Now we're seeing Chalobah as the main starting centre back. So again, I think it's just the consistency. The team selections have just been all over the place. Never the same 11. And again, I feel like, yes, Palmer might not have as much influence as before, but again, it just shows that the lack of kind of players and their creativity in other areas is making Palmer stand out even more, that he's not performing, because he's been the main guy this whole time. But again, even Palmer not performing is a concern, and it doesn't seem like he's addressed it. And he's almost seemed to put Palmer a bit more out wide again, when he was clearly doing better more in the middle. And in this game in particular, he was seen a lot more on the right, which again I thought didn't make too much sense, because I think behind the striker, behind in that kind of final third area, he can be very ruthless. But again, it's decision making from Maresca which comes under scrutiny, but it's something that it just seems, like you said, he hasn't adapted to, but also he hasn't really looked at sticking with an 11, being like, right, this is my 11 for the next 3 games or something, see how it goes. Because again, it unsettles the team. It started from the defence and even midfield, and then obviously up front is obviously another issue where they don't even know who's the main guy at this point. And Nkunku was out the door, then he starts every game, then he's out, Jackson's in. So it just seems to be like there's no idea of who he likes. And again, at the same time, you can understand it's his first season, but with a team like Chelsea who have this money and they need European Champions League football, you need to think of it fast, because you ain't got time to fiddle around. You really need to get these results. And I think that's why I worry that he's kind of l- kind of left it too late to kind of make up for it. And obviously with these tough fixtures coming up, I don't see how Chelsea come out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the club is a mess, but I feel like he could have handled it a bit better. And for a while, it looked like the start of the season, it looked like he'd really got to grips with it. And he was like, we were all talking about how amazing a job he was doing, and he's galvanized everyone, but it just all seems to have tapered away a little bit. But Adam, let's talk about Ipswich. They showed the quality. They showed why they've been the team that put up the most of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
They played pretty well, and for them to get a point away at Stamford Bridge is no mean feat. I think 25% of their points this season have come against Chelsea. It was a good result.
Yeah, fantastic result. It's just a shame this kind of game wasn't a bit earlier in the season, because it possibly feels like it could have been a catalyst for them to pick up more points. We have to say, as to Andrea's points, that Chelsea did afford them so much space and time, and that was seen by Enciso setting up Johnson, for example, for that second goal. But there was some great running from Johnson as well for Enciso's first goal. So, and this whilst Liam Delap wasn't in the squad, missing through injury in this particular match. So, yeah, I think they had a lot of grit, is what I would describe that kind of performance from Ipswich, because whilst we talk about positively about the attacking aspect, actually defensively, Alex Palmer in goal in particular saved them on more than one occasion. Jokingly said that, the best thing about the game was Sancho's goal. But he was a colossus, and you feel like that could be a good kind of thing for them to build up for next season. It feels like with this squad, it feels like there'll be inevitably one or two departures, but I think if they can keep the core of this squad together, they can build on it and come back up again. So it feels like there will be a yo-yo effects with this team in particular. But yeah, they did really well on the day. I think Kieran McKenna kind of alluded to the fact that this was something of a game plan. They knew areas of Chelsea's weaknesses in recent weeks, and it allowed them to kind of practice it out. And, for them to be able to have players like Enciso in their squad shows you, I suppose, how much they've developed over time as well. I think potentially that's maybe a reflection for next time when they do eventually come back into the Premier League, is that's the caliber of players that they need to introduce from the beginning of the season, and something they'll reflect on. But regardless, yeah, good result for them in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, probably a lot for Maresca to start thinking about, because actually I think if you can't be winning these games, then I think there's got to be some serious questions about his kind of ideals and his philosophy going forward. But I just get the perception that he probably won't be moved on. I get the feeling that they're actually going to back him this summer, and they feel that this is a project. But I think this was the golden gamble when you take a coach like Maresca, who wasn't really that fancied by Leicester City fans, don't forget, despite bringing them up. This was a huge gamble.
Although I think we can question Leicester City's fans' tastes on managers. I think their track record over the past 2 or 3 hasn't been particularly great. They've chased them both out of the club, and it looks like they were a lot better than what they've got now. I do want to say, really unlucky from Philogene. He only came on for 5 minutes. He was really active and lively when he came on, but then obviously had to be taken off. I thought that was quite unlucky. But yeah, big point for Ipswich.